Argentina will play France for the first time in a World Cup final. There are so many storylines for this game. Messi can almost single handedly take Argentina to glory, just like Maradona did in 1986. Probably even seal the GOAT debate forever, right? France can be the third country ever to win back to back World Cups. Last time was Brazil in 58 and 62, and it was Italy before that in 34 and 38. And finally, Deschamps can be the first manager since Vittorio Pozzo in 1938 and 1934 to win two World Cups as a manager, right? No manager other than Vittorio has ever won two World Cups. So before we get into how the teams will line up for this game, let's take a quick look at how these two teams have played coming into the finals. We start with Argentina versus the Netherlands in the quarterfinals, where they started in a 3-5-2 that became a 4-3-3 in attack, right? So Alvarez and Messi were occupying these areas. The midfielders were occupying these areas in possession, and then Acuna and Molina would sort of alternate pushing forward depending on where the ball was, right? So if it was on the left-hand side, Acuna would play up. If it was on the right-hand side, Molina would be more advanced. And the reason this worked well was Netherlands was trying to defend centrally with numbers, right? So they had 5 players in these areas with the 2 center mids and 3 center backs. And that meant Argentina had to exploit space on the wings, right? So in this area and this area here, whenever the ball was on the left-hand side, Acuna, Alvarez, and McAllister would try to exploit that space. Whenever it was on the right-hand side, it would be Messi, Alvarez, and Molina trying to exploit that space, with Fernandez and DePaul helping as needed, right? In defense, they had these 3 midfielders as sort of the first line of pressing, right? And also Alvarez would work really hard to get back. So as soon as Netherlands won the ball, these 4 players made it really difficult for them, with the fullbacks sort of running back to help as possible. And then they also had the second bank of 3 players in the 3 center backs that would be eager to get him off the ball, right? So they made it really difficult for Netherlands to create anything centrally, and they forced them wide. And if you see the Dutch team here, they're playing with 3 attackers, with Gakpo and Cam, and Depay and Bergwijn as the 2 strikers. They didn't have a lot of strength on the wings. So this made it really difficult for Netherlands to attack as well. So this is how they played against the Netherlands. Versus Croatia, Argentina played in a 4-4-2 that became a 2-4-3-1, right? And this is how it was set up. We had Paredes and DePaul playing as 2 CDMs. The 2 fullbacks were playing on the same level as them, operated as left and right midfielders. We had Alexis McAllister playing as an 8 in front of the 2 CDMs. Fernandez and Messi as playing as 2 cams, left and right side, and Alvarez playing as the false 9, center forward, whatever you want to call it, right? In this situation, we had overloads in midfield, right? And including these 2 players here, we had 6 players in midfield that made it really difficult for the Croatia 3 to thrive, right? And it created more space centrally versus the 4 players that would defend in the back in the center, right? And what I mean by this is usually Croatia had one of the 3 midfielders pushing forward. So we would have sort of Brozovic and Kovacic defending when Modric got forward. And when Kovacic got forward, we had Modric and Brozovic defending. Against this system, it worked really well for Argentina to create space centrally, right? So Alvarez and Messi, Fernandez and McAllister were occupying these areas and being an absolute menace for Croatia when they actually had the ball. In defense, they were able to press Croatia centrally as well, with these 4 players and Paredes and DePaul stepping up. So what this forced Croatia to do was they were forced to move the ball wide as much as possible, right? Move it to Pasalic, move it to Perisic, use their fullbacks to create something. But this is where Croatia was weak. So it was actually a tactical masterclass from Scaloni, the way they played against Croatia. In general, Scaloni is great at curating a team to play against the opponent, right? He's used 5 different formations in the 6 games before the final versus France. Now let's look at what Deschamps and France are up to. Versus England, France played a 4-2-3-1 where they were really deep and narrow without the ball, right? You had Hernandez tucking in, Jules Koundé tucking in as well, Dembele and Mbappe kind of playing narrow as well, and Griezmann trying to help in defense when possible. This became a 3-3-3-1 in possession, right, with Hernandez sort of moving into midfield, Koundé, Varane, and Upamecano playing at center back. and you had this type of formation, and they were really helped by the first goal that Tchouaméni got, because they just counterattacked after that, right? They were allowed to sit deep and counterattack, and that was their strategy for the England game. Versus Morocco in the semifinals, France played a 4-2-3-1 that defended as a 4-4-2 without the ball, right? So we had Mbappe and Giroud kind of playing as two strikers. We had Tchouaméni, Dembele, Fofana, and Griezmann defending central areas, and obviously Koundé and Hernandez tucking deep, right? And their whole goal was to stay compact and narrow, right? In defensive shape. They only had 39% possession. And against in this game, once they got that early goal through Theo Hernandez, they counterattacked with a front four of Giroud, Mbappe, Griezmann, and Dembele. And one DM was helping occasionally, right? Either Tchouaméni or Fofana. So let's see how both teams will line up for the final. So as we've seen throughout this tournament, it's clear that both teams can actually play well without the ball. The question is, who will succeed in playing deep to soak the pressure, counterattack, and take their chances when they do counterattack, right? Argentina will most likely play a 4-4-2 that becomes a 2-4-3-1 like we've already seen, with these players playing centrally. Versus Netherlands, they actually had 5 players to play through, but versus France, they're only going to have 4 players most likely, right? These 4 central players. So I think they have a better chance of creating stuff centrally instead of having to go wide. And this will force the fullbacks to play more narrow and help out in defense. And this will probably most likely also force one of Dembele, Griezmann, and Mbappe as well to help centrally. The pressing from the front will come from Alvarez, Fernandez, McAllister, and one of Paredes and DePaul, right? These guys will be pushed right up front to help win the ball back as fast as possible, while Messi has a free role to operate wherever he wants. France will most likely continue with their 4-2-3-1 that defends as a 4-4-2 without the ball, right? Like they did in the semifinals. Most likely, Dembele will drop into midfield, Griezmann will also drop into midfield, and Mbappe and Giroud will be the 2 outlets, right? They're going to try to be as narrow as possible in defense to stop Argentina from creating anything centrally. They will hope that the individual brilliance from one of their front 4 when they counterattack gets the job done, right? Like a cross from Mbappe for Giroud, cross from Griezmann for Giroud or Mbappe, and Dembele also creating stuff from the wings, right, for these players. Their defensive discipline, their defensive shape, and the role of Griezmann trying to create as much as possible throughout the pitch will be key to win this game. As for Messi and Argentina, it'll be Messi magic and the pressing of the front sort of 6 or 7 players that will make the difference for them, right? So let's see what happens in this game. I think both teams will try to avoid individual errors as much as possible, because in a clutch game like this, a red card or penalty can completely change the game, right? So let's hope the best team wins, and let's also hope that we see lots of goals. I'm rooting for Messi to win this game. I think it's going to be a close one. Argentina to win it 2-1. What do you guys think? Get in the comments with your predicted scoreline for the final and who you think is going to win, obviously. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.